about the last 20 years. That can kind of tell you how long we've been doing some of this. It's my privilege to work with all of these leaders there in the issues. We've worked with David on the Religious Liberty Amendment. We walked the halls and enlisted sponsors for that on the religious liberty issue, on the right to life issues. We've been there on the SB 303 opposing it. We've been there on the HB 2 rallying for it. On the homeschool issues, we've been there standing there too. For the gambling issue, we've been there opposing those. You know what's hard? For a legislator to say, oh, I'm against gambling. Well, but you voted for that last gambling bill. Oh, I know. It just expanded it just a little bit. What part of no gambling don't you understand? So that's one of the issues. The education issues. We've had Seago, and CWA was very active last time in working against the Seago being put into our school system across the state, and we did get that calmed down. I'm not going to tell you it's gone. It's not. It just changed names, and we'll have to deal with that. But also the Common Core curriculum. Oh, it's not in Texas. You see, we opted out. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. It's still in Texas, too. So some of those things we're going to need to deal with, and we'll be dealing with that. I'm excited about you coming to help. We kind of feel like the cavalry has arrived, that you are here to be trained, that you're here to participate, how thankful we are for you. May I just ask you something? How many of you have ever been to Austin to, quote, quote, lobby, and let me say advocate, for anything? Is that wonderful? Is that wonderful? And we're looking forward to seeing you there again this time. We're going to see you at the Tuesday morning briefings there, I hope. We're going to see you on February the 24th, which is Texas Faith and Family Day at the Capitol. And what we'll do is we'll begin on that morning in the Capitol Auditorium with a briefing session from 8:30 until 11:30. We have some flyers out this that you can pick up on the way out. 8:30 to 11:30 is a briefing session in the Capitol Auditorium. At 12 o'clock, there'll be a rally on the steps, and we'll have some of our bill authors that we're supporting. We'll have them there on the steps. Then you're going to pick up a box lunch, and then you're going to go and spend some time, quality time, with your legislators, your senators, and your representatives that day, February the 24th. And even if it's ice and snow, you're still going to be there. It has been before, trust me, I've been there. So, you know what, your letters are important. Your phone calls are important, but there's one more thing I'm going to ask you to do. Many of you here in this room believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and that He will answer prayer. Amen. And we believe at CWA that prayer is one of our most important armaments. Amen. And so I'm asking you to never forget to pray for your state representative, or your state senator, and for all of the elected officials all the way up. There's another thing that I've done for you, and I hope it's been helpful, and I hope it will continue to be helpful. I just, after the primaries, after the conventions in June, I took each one of the platforms from the Republican Party and from the Democrat Party, and I compared them on some of the issues. What did the Democrats say about life? What did the Republicans say about life? What about stem cells? What about adoption? What about marriage? What about reparative therapy? What about discrimination, pornography, religion, education, healthcare, drugs, government, judiciary, elections, defense, Israel, firearms, and climate change? And they're just little snippets, but they are verbatim. What one party said, what the other party said. Why is it important now if the elections are gone? No. When you start looking at the legislation that is being proposed, and some of our good conservatives, quote, start telling you, well, I just really don't believe in that. Well, you're going to just pick up the little party platform and you're going to say, your party platform says that. So it's just a little tool for you, and I'll be out in the hall and I'll be able to give you some. We've distributed over 7,000 of them. This is what I have left. And so I'll be able to distribute them.
Hello, I'm Cathie Adams, president of Texas Eagle Forum, and thank you for committing much of your Saturday to coming out and hearing these wonderful, wonderful patriots speak. Our 2015 is going to be a very busy, but more than that, successful, I think, session. And it's because of the work that you have done in the primaries and then again last Tuesday. So kudos to you first and foremost. The first thing that we're all going to do is work for, of course, Scott Turner to be our next speaker. It is always a privilege for us to work with each of the people here on this panel. The life issue is and always will be number one on Texas Eagle Forum's agenda as long as God gives me breath. We have right now on Monday, I believe, is due by midnight a brief before the Fifth Circuit Court in defense of our pro-life bill. And so that is something that Texas Eagle Forum has been leading the way and we're most grateful to be a part of. We are also going to be working on, and Tracy Bradford, if you are still here, please stand. Tracy may have gone by now, but anyway, there she is, okay, is leading our way on American law for American courts. Do you think that we should have Sharia law coming into? No, I don't think anyone does, and nor does a number of other states. About, I think, 6 or 8 of them now have passed laws saying that only American laws, only state laws will be in our courts. And yet we already have in Richardson, Texas, an example of a Muslim couple coming in before a JP and pleading a case, and he says, this is not our business, this is your business under Sharia law, you need to go to your court. That's like a referral to a Sharia court. This is a real issue in the state of Texas, and we've got to deal with it. So we've got to start with having this bill that Tracy will be leading the way on. On the budget, they did grow the budget by 26% the last biennium. That is not just a rumor, and it's not a misstatement. And it is a fact, and I'm sure that Joanne will be talking more about that. On Seago, yes, Seago is in our schools, and now it's going to be called the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And we do have Common Core, and our schools are aligning their curriculum with Common Core. We're going to be working against that, and Mary Lynn Gerstenschlager will be leading our efforts on that. Smart meters. Many of you have heard me talk about Agenda 21. Smart meters are a part of that, and it's a way of not only being able for you to use your smartphone to change your thermostat. That's all fine and good. But that power company putting a 16 gigabyte computer on your home is collecting information, and they want to market that information. I don't think they ought to be able to do that unless you give them permission and they talk to you about it. So we will be working on smart meter legislation as well. Lastly, immigration. Why do we have sanctuary cities, and why was it not a big deal this last session? 2 sessions ago, we had a governor who was engaged and who said no sanctuary cities in the state of Texas. He even put it on the special call. Nothing happened. Why not? Could it be again, because we have a speaker in the House who has a tin ear to the people, but has an ear for the mega bucks in Texas who want to abuse people and keep them as an underclass. That is abusive. We look forward to working with you, and God bless all of you.
Y'all gonna come down here. I'm hanging off the end of the table. Yeah, that's your seatbelt. Had a few people come up to me and go, well, you pretended that we knew who you were this morning. You didn't even identify yourself. So, for those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, and we've been all over the state and intend to do some more. My name is Joanne Fleming. I am Executive Director of Grassroots America. We are a local group in Tyler, Texas that has statewide influence, and we've worked very hard to get there. I am a volunteer executive director, and we are the largest constitutional conservative organization in East Texas and one of the largest in the state. I'm also the 2-term chair of the Texas Legislature's Tea Party Caucus Advisory Committee, which means that we do sit down with, as Michael calls them, the godlike figures, to talk to them, those who like to say they have Tea Party credentials. Let me say this going into the session. During this past primary, it became abundantly clear how much influence all of you have. Because the people who were running for a promotion up the political food chain decided that they would try to date all of the Tea Party leaders, the grassroots leaders. I mean, these were people that never darkened the door of a Tea Party caucus meeting, didn't care about talking to us during the session. But boy, you're talking about people who have decided they're going to run for statewide office. I mean, my phone was ringing, can I take you to lunch? Can I take you to dinner? Can I have coffee with you? And the answer to that is no. I don't do that. I said, but I will ask you questions in a candidate forum. And I'll ask you the questions the same time I ask your colleagues that are running for the same office. So let me just say that the UT Texas Tribune poll, every time they polled voters for the last 2 or 3 years, people in Texas more and more self-identify as conservative independents. So for all the political chattering class that talks about, oh, we all have to be so moderate, and Republicans have to be moderate in a general election, that's a bunch of hooey. In the East Texas vernacular. Greg Abbott did not moderate. Dan Patrick did not moderate. And they garnered a huge percentage, an increased percentage between 43 and 45% of the Hispanic vote. So now back to the poll. 1/3 of voters self-identify as Democratic, 1/3 as traditional GOP, and 1/3 is liberty-leaning Tea Party types. And I am from a county, I'm proud to say that when people do polls there, they go, Joanne, you live in the reddest county in Texas. And I go, yeah, we worked on that for like 23 years and we intend to keep it that way. So what I'm saying is, in the past 5 to 6 years, with the ascendancy of the liberty groups in Texas, you will see that with very little money, probably no money, we don't get money from the Koch brothers, we have had an impact. And why have we had an impact? Because we're talking about how you take that idea of limited government and what that looks like if you actually turn it into something at the state level. Let me say that very much the battle in Austin is the same as that battle that Ted Cruz is fighting in Washington, D.C. It is the battle between the political ruling class, made up of big government bureaucrats and politicians from both parties. He is fighting that, and that same political ruling class is alive and well in Austin, Texas. And if you don't believe it, if you got in your mail these 2 pieces of propaganda from the Texas House Leadership Fund, I will tell you, I got this in my mailbox, these 2 pieces the same day. Nifty little money-saving operation they've got going there. 2 pieces to the same household the same day. And I can tell you it's fake. So they're comparing themselves to Washington, D.C. and talking about how they have protected the unborn. You know, they were dragged kicking and screaming to that. And to talk about how they've cut spending and balanced the budget. Well, whoopee, the Constitution requires them to balance the budget. So let me hit on 3 quick points here. The state of Texas spends too much. It spent 26% more if you compare session to session spending, from the 82nd to the 83rd. Now, that was not some little accident they had down there and made a little mess. That wasn't an accident. That is actually part of a very dangerous pattern. Over the last 20 years, the spending, all funds spending, can we just nail that down a minute? All fund spending includes federal funds, because where do they get the federal funds from? From the federal pocket, okay? So when you talk to your elected officials at the state level about spending, please don't let them weasel out of the federal funds they spend. Because Texas is 11th in the nation in dependency on federal dollars for our budget, 11th in the nation. There are $69 billion federal dollars balancing our state budget for this biennium. That is 35% of your state budget revenue. That is not a healthy posture for Texas. To you that until we have, our elected officials have a substantive conversation about how and why we spend dollars, we're never going to have the conservative Texas budget that the people of Texas deserve. Now, I know that the liberal media and some of the big spenders in Austin are already just, they're in panic mode because, oh my gosh, it looks like Greg Abbott is talking about cutting spending, and Dan Patrick, my gosh, he's just a lunatic and he's just going to, wreck the place. Let me tell you, the thing that they want to constantly harp on how we need to spend more money in education and more money in transportation. I'm going to tell you all this. I don't care what kind of a noble spending scheme they have down there. The more money you shovel into the government beast, the worse it will be. Texas government, state government shoved back into a Constitution-sized box. That means Texas needs to do those things that are core constitutional functions and stop subsidizing Hollywood, and corporate welfare funds need to go. They don't need to be tinkered with. They need to go. There is no principle of liberty on which you can rest the corporate welfare accounts down there, and I'm talking specifically about the Emerging Technology Fund and the Enterprise Fund. And by the way, those nice, wonderful special events funds that help fund crazy things like Formula One racing in Austin. And I will tell you, when I found out that our Republicans had committed a $250 million deal on a handshake, no paperwork on F1. I'm going to tell you what, if the Democrats had been in charge, we would have been marching on Austin. It's time to hold our elected officials accountable. The people of Texas don't need, don't want, and don't deserve this kind of sloppy Washington-style government that we have operating in our state capital. It's time to clean it up, and it's time to rip the for sale sign off the Capitol door. It belongs to the people. So now, we've already talked about how we spend too much. Over the last 20 years, spending has gone up 310%. And if you compare the rate of inflation and population growth in that same period, it's about 139%. So that 26% increase in spending was not some accident. It's part of a dangerous pattern. We depend too much on the federal government. We've talked about that. 11th in the nation. Then the debt issue. The state of Texas has no business leading the nation in transportation debt, but we do. And I submit to you that our good guys that were all running around the state telling us why we needed to vote for Prop 1, because it was free money. That's insulting, and I invite you to jump all over them the next time they say that to you, because they have no business talking about government and other people's money in loose terms like that. And I will tell you that the Transportation Commission and the Department of Transportation, all of that needs to be reformed. It needs to be cleaned up first. These are some of the issues that we have to unite around and go down to Austin and lobby, be activists and advocate for. I'm going to be down there supporting everything that Texas Right to Life does, what Texas Eagle Forum does, what Texas Homeschool Coalition, what Texas Values does. Empower Texans. We are united, and I have to tell you that that scares the daylights out of the political ruling class, and it should. It's time to put the people of Texas first. I'm tired of hearing about property tax reform. I'm tired about hearing about school finance reform. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm tired of hearing people promise reform in transportation. It is time to reform government, because the last time I had a conversation with people in the legislators in the Tea Party caucus, it was over the water issue. And when we had the temerity to ask Chairman Ritter if they had ever considered maybe this new bureaucracy that they were putting together, if they had ever considered maybe having one of the other 39 departments, agencies, or programs that manages natural resources in the state of Texas, having one of them pick up a little extra work. Miss Fleming, you know, that's just really hard to get anything like that done. It's hard to streamline. It's hard to cut a department. I said, okay, well, let's talk about some basic math. Last session, it was hard for you when you had 101 House members, Republican House members. This session, you have 95. Is it going to be easier when you get down to 78, 76? I said, what is standing in the way of reform in Austin are a bunch of lobbyists, paid lobbyists, who they are more afraid of them than they are of us. So, you know, freedom is not free. We have to fight for it. And so I am asking all of you to recommit. Thank you for what you've already done, because we've already had enormous impact on the state of Texas. We already are. People are out there looking for people who have earned credibility in their own communities. They will look to you to know who to vote for. But if you don't hold those officials accountable that you told them to vote for, you will soon lose your credibility. I can tell you personally that I have lost friends over having to say to an incumbent that was well liked in Austin, you've broken your promises, you've broken too many of them, you went back on your word, we can't support you anymore. But if you're about saving the state of Texas from going purple, not based on the Democrats, but on what the progressive Republicans do. If you care about your state and you care about our place in God's history for freedom on this planet, then I'm asking you to recommit yourself today to the great cause of liberty, and to think about how you can be a constant source of influence in your own sphere of influence, because you do have influence. But make sure that you and your organizations have a very high standard. Don't fall into that trap of becoming such close friends with your elected officials that you dare not challenge them. Because you see, we will have become the enemy if we do that. Thank you for being here today, and I thank